Can I talk to you about tube stations?
You have done a lot recently.
Yes, but I feel that it is also something that I need to talk about because I'm going to come back to it later when we get to the film section of the podcast. So yes, I am allowed to talk about tube stations, and I will talk about tube stations.
I'll be blowing my phone, so...
So everyone, so here's my little factual rant. I went on a hidden London underground tour in London a couple of weeks ago, and it was...
Whereabouts was it?
I know. Thanks for that. I might have gone back in and edited out the many times I said London in that, but no, I can't. So yes, you had found it for me, hadn't you? You were looking at something on Tinternet.
So
and
the history of this is, we were looking at where you were staying, and I said that opposite there was an old disused underground station.
Mm-hmm.
We looked up a video, and TFL had talked through it. It's the old Tower Hill station. It's also known as... was it Mark Street?
It was Mark Lane.
Mark Lane, yeah.
Yeah, or Trinity Square, as it was originally known. And this is the level of detail that I now have in my brain.
We spent an evening looking at those videos, and then from there we found out about the tours, and you booked yourself on one recently.
I booked myself on one. And I went on the Silver Screen tour, which is where you meet at Charing Cross, and they take you underneath Charing Cross because there were platforms that were stopped being used in 1999. But they are now used for filming. So Skyfall was filmed there, The Bourne Ultimatum, Paddington. You know, you've got loads and loads of films, and they actually show you clips partway through. Mark is looking at me now because I can't tell you any more, dear listeners, because I think he's going to go on this tour. And so I've had to hold in all of the big things that I learned during this tour, but I have to say it was the greatest thing I've ever done, and I just want to recommend it. And TFL, you've just mentioned, Mark, TFL is Transport for London. I also went to like the Transport for London Transport Museum, which was really good because you get half price if you've got a tour ticket. So also a recommendation, but I cannot recommend this tour more than I am. Well, I mean, I can. I'm just going to keep going on about it. But I really, really recommend it. It's amazing. It's got a lot of social history to it. And there's obviously the filming and the movies. But it was just amazing. And then also when I went to the pictures a few days ago, I then got to think more about the underground and the disused tunnels. You're just looking at me funny now.
No, well, I'm somewhat going to dispute the point. Mark's looking at me because he thinks he's going to go on it and he doesn't want me to say anything. You said I'm not going to say anything because there is so many things that happen in this tour.
I know.
So don't put this on me. You said don't look too much into this.
I know. I think I'm doing it more to remind myself that there were things that happened during the tour that I didn't know were going to happen, and it would spoil it for anyone else who was going on it. But yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It was like 45 quid. It was about an hour and a bit, but I got so much out of it. I think I took about 100 photos, genuinely. When I look at my phone is just full of like tube stuff and film stuff, and yeah, it's amazing. And then I also got talking to one of the guides about all sorts of things, and it was just you know when you end up doing something really random and you're just like standing there on this platform, and it's just like, how am I here doing this? But you're really excited about it. That's kind of the vibe.
How did I get here?
Yeah, how did I get here? It's just bizarre. And it's given me a really good idea for my next novel as well. So, you know, all things out. But I wanted to mention it because I think it's a brilliant thing to do in London, but also I'm going to come back to it later on.
The cute thing is when you came back and then decided you wanted to be a tour guide.
Yes.
And so we were laying in bed and you decided to regale me with all the facts that you'd learned. Like, I think most people do this, certainly I do, where you go and do something and then you spend maybe half a day like fantasizing about and daydreaming about what your life would be like if you took up that life and stuff like that.
I just felt...
And then I get over it. And I don't come back and say, oh God, it would be so amazing to be a professional gambler, Elaine, and this is what I'd do, and I think this is the reasons why I'd really be good at it, and I have looked all this stuff up.
I mean, you might do that, but for like 10 minutes and then move on with your life, I think is what you're saying.
I think that's kind of semi-professional.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I had a lovely time, and
Good.
that's my top recommendation of the week is get yourself on a TFL Hidden London tour. I'm going to go back and do more of them, Mark. Oh, good, is Mark's reply.
I'm not even saying
I'm just
that.
waiting for you to go, good.
I'm not even saying oh, good.
Just silence.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about some television? Would that help?
I've not got much to talk about on television, but
I've only got one.
Okay,
But
well,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Watching television.
So I'm going to talk to you about Department Q, which is a fairly new on Netflix British thriller. Had to think then. British thriller. I'm saying British because it is British, but it's based in Scotland. Like, it's based in Edinburgh. And
Definitively British.
Yeah, I know that, but I was really thinking about how Edinburgh's like a major character in the show, and so yeah. Anyway.
Oh no.
I know. So
Deep hatred of anyone who says no, the city's actually just a character in the show in itself. No, it's not. It's not got a credit on IMDb. No, it's not.
Thank you, Mark. So Matthew Good plays Carl Mork, a detective who has what? What is wrong with that?
Carl Mork.
Carl Mork. Well,
M-O-R-K, as in like Mork
no,
calling awesome.
it's got more letters in it. I think it's got a C in it as well. Right, okay, well I'll pause there then, because the reason he's got this interesting surname is because it's based on a Danish book series.
M-O-R-C-K.
Yeah,
that's
that's
disappointing.
It. Yeah, so
Nanu.
it's been taken from this international book series, and then it's been adapted for screen here and transplanted into Edinburgh. But Carl Mork, this detective, is English, and he's working with all of his Scottish colleagues. So there's a lot of like, he's very sort of like anti-Scottish, and he's doing a lot of like pulling their leg about Scotland and all of this sort of thing, and then they're coming back to him. So there's all that sort of like,
that goes down well.
Yeah, it's that sort of Scottish-English rivalry. There's a lot of that in it. But it works because he's an outsider. He is a very unpleasant personality. He is grumpy and no one really likes him. And he is really, especially for junior members of staff, he's very, very sort of like dismissive of them and quite bullying. Anyway, there's an incident at the beginning of the show where him and his partner are involved, and there's a big fallout from the incident, and he is then brought back into the workplace and given this Department Q, which is essentially a ruse to sort of get him to go away, because no one likes him, no one really knows what to do with him. So he's put in the basement where there's like the urinals are still there and like toilets and showers and everything, and I'm sure this wouldn't happen in real life, but anyway, it works as this sort of gothic state of where, you know, and metaphorical for where he's been placed. And he there's a ramshackle team of people that come to join him, and they are looking at cold cases. And this first series, because I'm sure there's going to be more of them, this first series looks at a specific cold case and follows it all the way through. You have been waiting to say something throughout the whole of my little spiel there, and you've got a smile on your face as wide as I don't know what. Come on, what are you going to say?
No. So a number of different things went through my mind, one of which is Avenue Q.
Yes.
Which I can't get away from whenever I hear Department
you
Q.
You love a musical, and you love Avenue Q.
Another one is where someone's sort of tucked away as kind of a punishment. Does sound a little bit like something else with a letter in its name.
Nope, you're going to have to help me.
Like, say, the X-Files.
Oh, yes, that's very good. Very good.
And then,
yes.
It's definitely going to get a second series, is it?
Yeah, oh,
Are
definitely.
you aware of Netflix? Have you heard of their renewal schedule?
You know what? So these are my cards on the table. This should have been perfect for me. It's a thriller. It's a crime thriller. It's got a cold case. There's like a case involving a lawyer as well, so you get court cases. There's a lot of thematic things that I'm interested in. Like there's a domestic violence storyline. There's PTSD. There's a thing about counselling. So there's loads of things. And there's also all of your best Scottish actors are popping up in this. So you've got Kelly MacDonald. You've got I can't remember her name. I think it might be Kate, the woman who was in Game of Thrones, and she had an unfortunate relationship with her son, who I think was still very
Kate
close.
Dickey.
Thank you. I was just having to go through. How am I going to explain that? Like people flying out of the air. And Mark Bonner, our favourite Mark Bonner, who pops up doing the CBeebies bedtime story.
I don't know who Mark Bonner
You
is.
will. He does the CBeebies bedtime story all the time. Anyway,
Shirley Henderson?
Shirley Henderson is
Wow.
absolutely in this show, right? So all your favourite Scottish actors are in it. I really, really like it for that. But when so it should have been right up my street. When I first watched this, I got halfway through the first episode and I was like, this is not working for me. There's something weird about the way that it is designed. The design of the set is strict. People's haircuts are slightly weird, and people's the clothing as well. There's something like it's kind of like out of time, and it's sort of retro but not. And I was finding the set design and the design of the police station didn't seem right either. Something just wasn't working for me. Then I got to the end of episode 1 and I was like, boom. Story-wise, I did not see what was coming. It grabbed me by the hair. I was like, what could it grab me by? Anyway, it grabbed me. And then I watched all of the rest of the episodes, and I think there were about 8 or 9 of them, over the next 48 hours. I could not stop watching it.
So I walked in on you watching something.
Yeah.
That's always a good start to any.
Brilliant. Thanks
And
for
you
that.
said, I've just seen the TV show of the year.
Yeah.
Is that this?
Yes. Yeah.
And yet the first episode you weren't that
Yeah.
into.
Wasn't into it. I think this was the problem. And I wasn't even going to talk about it on the podcast. I thought, I've watched this bit of this first episode. I'm probably not even going to go back to it. But because there was nothing else to watch, I thought I'll go back. I'll see the end of it. And also, I heard other people talking about how they really liked. So I listened to all the other podcasts, all the other TV podcasts, and they were raving about it. Didn't know anything else about the show. They hadn't given anything away. So I just thought, I'll keep going. But that first episode grabs you right at the end, and then we're off. And all of my sort of misgivings about it just went away. Storyline wise, plot wise, this is some of the best plotting I have ever seen, and it makes sense to me that it's come from a book and it's been plotted beautifully, and it just works. And there is so much suspense and different storylines mingling into the other stuff. I cannot recommend this enough. My only caveat is it is dark. It's a very, very dark show. It has a lot of things in it that I think certain people would find difficult to keep going back episode after episode for some of those things. Sometimes I know I don't find it difficult, but I know other people can find that relentless darkness difficult to take all the way through a show. Yeah. But this is a show that has a start, middle and an end, but it is left open at the end for them to come back. It's very much like here's how the gang got together at the end, and then here we go. I thought it was fabulous. All the acting brilliant, plotting brilliant, set design threw me off a little bit. I couldn't quite work out where we were in terms of timing and why people maybe it's just me, maybe the young people these days just have their hair in interesting slightly retro ways that I don't quite understand, and just the police station didn't look like a proper police station to me. It just didn't seem right. But anyway, put all of those to one side. This is an excellent thriller.
Would I like it?
I think it's got sort of elements of Seven in it. It's got Fincher vibes, maybe Manhunter, Fincher, that sort of thing. Is that the sort of show you would? You don't tend to watch thrillers.
You probably have been
massively.
married. You've been married to me for like.
I find it very hard when you say, "Would I like
years.
it?"
I'm not going to hold you to this. Like, if I try and don't like it, I'm not going to go, you told me this would be.
But give it watch the first episode, because that takes you through. You then know what's going on, and then make your decision from that. I think you could go.
That's kind of how I watch TV shows anyway, but yes.
You could kind of go. I think you'll either get to the end of it and go, this is an ITV crime drama, or you'll swing the way I swung, which was to think, oh, this feels very Fincher and that a bit more prestige-y. And or a really, really good thriller book.
So what you're saying is I'll either get to the end and like it or not like it.
And this is why I didn't want to answer that question. Right, that's all I have for TV this time round.
Let's talk about films.
Let's do films.
Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see? When you're hooking with your baby, let's roll in the balcony.
I've just got a couple of quick ones, just to things I've just watched that you haven't seen. The first one is Ballerina, or to give it its full title, From the World of John Wick, Ballerina, which is just ludicrous. How many of the John Wick films have you seen?
None.
That's not true. You've seen the first one.
Have I? I remember the beginning of the first one, and I did not like the animal cruelty on screen, and therefore I have forgotten everything else about that thing. So yeah, I might have seen it. I can't remember anything about it.
How many have you
apart from
seen?
that
None.
beginning.
I remember the first bit.
Well, I remember the first bit.
These films blend into one
Yeah.
after the first one, and I don't remember the character, the ballerina, from the third film.
Oh, do you not? Right, that's interesting.
There are a couple of characters who appear in this, not played by Ana de Armas in that film. She comes into the franchise to play this character in this. She's someone who is a ballerina.
Is she a ballerina by any
but
chance?
also a hit woman or a protector of people who are being hunted by hit persons.
Nice.
This is absolutely bog standard action thriller. Ana de Armas, we've not seen for a couple of years now. She's took a couple of years out of the.
She was in Bond
limelight.
the last time I saw her.
Yeah, and she's nowhere near as good in this as she is. Nowhere near as like show stealing in this.
Yeah,
as
she
she
comes
is
in and then it was very
and obviously
good.
it's a sort of featured cameo in Bond, and it works really well.
And it was almost setting her up for this sort of thing, wasn't it? It's like, oh, I'm an assassin and I can kick really high.
She can bring the action. She really does bring the action. She's a fine action star. This just isn't very interesting on a plot level. There's a generic baddie. There's a generic. You could probably write out exactly what happens. There is a big spectacular ending where I was sat. Not for the only time this. Not the only time on Films Bitch Review today. A big spectacular ending after me thinking, all the way through a film.
Okay.
But yeah, it's bang average. It's bang average. And yeah, I don't think this is going to get another film because I think they're trying to spin off a franchise into this. But yeah, I don't think it's
from the
probably
world
gonna
of
get
John
another film.
Wick, something else from the world of John Wick. Yeah, do
Yeah.
you think that? Okay.
Do you know what is what is going to be a franchise that goes on?
Go on then.
Final Destination Bloodlines.
Oh, excellent. I do like the Final Destination films.
Well, I've seen the first one, definitely. I think I've probably seen the second one. I needed something to watch, so I went and saw this without knowing anything about it other than it was a Final Destination film. This is so much fun. To the point where I'm kind of weird, because this is definitely a 3-star film.
Okay.
But it is one of the most fun films I've had in the cinema for
How
maybe
long
5
is
years.
it?
Oh, it's
Is it
only
a good sort of couple of hours?
if it's 2 hours, it's just 2 hours. It's somewhere between 90
It's
minutes
come
and 2
on
hours.
Sky Cinema premiere recently, to rent or buy.
Oh, right, okay.
And I thought that was very quick because I'm sure it's still out at the cinema.
This is so much fun. There's a prologue where I'm just sat there going through, and someone's going to a restaurant at the top of a big tall tower.
Oh, we've done that.
We've done that. And as you can probably imagine, stuff starts to go wrong.
Yeah.
And
Is the tower turning round and round in a circle like ours did?
I can't remember. It might have done. It might have done. It's
In
not far
Vegas,
off.
we went to this restaurant called Top of the World, and it rotates, and you go
I
all
think
the way
it's
around.
closer to the Seattle Space Needle than it is
right,
that.
okay.
But it's basically a restaurant at
It's
the top of
restaurant
the tower
tall
with
yeah.
you need to get an elevator up to
Okay.
get to. And I was sat there, and I was like, this is one of the greatest preludes I've ever seen in a film. And shit just keeps on happening, and it's absolutely ludicrous. And the more things happen, the funnier it gets for me. I was in quite an empty screening, but the other people who were in there were
surprises
not
me.
reacting in the slightest to it.
Really?
Which made me laughing out loud at every single thing that happens even more funny as I'm trying to hold it in. I'm crying laughing at points. And there's people just turning around going, why the fuck are you laughing? Will be on my top 10 of the year.
Fab.
Ahead of far better films than this. The plot is better than it needed to be. There is twists and turns and plot revelations that kind of work in the logic of the film. And that's all I want from one of these films, logic. There's massive logic leaps where you're like, that machine should definitely not have that setting that's just so easy to press with one button. And it just works. Yeah, if you have a night by yourself and want to just watch something daft, this is absolutely the thing for you. Should we talk about something that we've both seen?
Yes. Finally, I've been to the cinema. Finally. I have not been for quite a while now. I've found going to the cinema really, really difficult of late.
So why do you think that is?
I think that the bad behaviour in the cinema, or my brain said the bad behaviour of the cinema has been so much recently when I've been going that I'm now on edge even more so when I go. So when I've been going recently, it has been people getting the phones out, people chatting, people doing all of that. It's just got too much. And because I'm autistic, I have this really heightened sensory sensitivity. So, like, for example, when I walked in today, sat at my seat, and I was so overwhelmed by the scent of nachos. that cheese, that plastic cheese melting.
Yes.
It felt like I was drowning in cheese. And I know that sounds like over the top, but for someone with a sensory sensitivity, it's actually physically painful. I was thinking about this in the car on the way back today, trying how I would explain it to someone. It's not just an irritant, it's a physical pain. It feels like someone's getting your insides and pulling them out. Topical. It means that you can't concentrate on the film and your heart rate. So again, so today, for example, one of the lights on the left-hand side was flickering. So it was one of the cinema lights that they keep on as like safety lights.
Yes.
But it was flickering, and I bet no one else in the whole of the screen noticed this light. And for me, I had to move my glasses so that it was blocking, so the rim was blocking out that light, because I will just notice that light for the next 2 and a bit hours.
Our Odeon is shit for things like that.
Was in it was in the main screen. It was like main screen one. So I think I just got myself into a state really of knowing that every time I would go, I would have to bring myself down or regulate myself, and I was just getting a bit sick of doing that. That's not to say it's like it all the time. There have been times where I've been and there's been hardly anyone there, but I think I just had a bit of a bad run of it, and therefore I found it easier to say, I won't bother going. I won't bother going, I'll wait till it comes out here. But you've been really brilliant this weekend and the run up to this weekend in really encouraging me to go, and almost like we think with you in my brain, I've used the podcast as a sort of a thing of like, well, if I want to talk about these things, I have to go and see them. So the podcast's actually been really helpful as well. But you've been really good. So for example, today I showed you on my phone like where everyone was sitting, and I was really struggling because even though there was probably only about 20 people in this massive screening, there were just too many people for my liking.
You said, it's filling up.
It's filling up.
And then I looked at it and I did think,
this is massive gaps.
This is Elaine's version of filling up.
Yeah, this is my. Yes. But it is my version of it. But I wasn't going to go because I couldn't find a spot where I could be not near people. And then I was trying to think, well, if that's a group of 4, will they be loud? If that's a group of 2, what are they going to be together? That's the way my brain works. And you went, I'd just sit there. And it turned out to be the best seat I've had, like, for such a long time. There were people in front of me, there were people behind, but I had a cruncher to the right of me, but if anyone crunches in the cinema, it wouldn't matter if they were right at the front or the right hand side, I'm going to be able to hear them. I can hear anything. I've got this it's like a blooming
Ears
superpower.
Of a wolf.
Honestly, it's like a superpower that you don't want, in that you can spot anything and you can hear anything, you can smell anything. So yeah, anyway, and cruncher calmed down after, all their nachos were done. And I'm feeling much more positive, I have to say, before we get into these reviews. I'm feeling much more positive about going to the cinema and being able to deal with it and being able to manage it than I have been over the last few months. So thank you very much for all your help. And I think the pod really helps. I didn't realise I
had, but yes.
No, but you have, and I think it's important to say that. And I think the podcast as well helps. It gives me, because I haven't been able to have a conversation with you on the pod about films recently, and I felt really left out of the conversation. So yeah, it's something I have to deal with. It's something I'll keep working on. And I will keep reporting back on it. The next time I get someone who's flashing their phone in my face, I might end up just running out of the cinema.
Wait till you hear about the dickheads I had in my Mission Impossible screening.
See, this is what I don't want. I just can't bear it. I can't bear it. But yeah, we're going to talk about Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, and we're going to do 28 Years Later. And then once we've done our reviews, we're going to come back and we're going to do a spoiler section for both of them.
Yes.
Because we both have things to say about those films. But this is going to be spoiler free. Mission Impossible first, then 28 Days Later, and we're both going to be able to talk about them because we've both seen them.
Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, not Reckoning Part 2, because
because we changed our mind with that.
That was a marketing idea that went wrong.
Do you remember? I remember going to see it and it getting to the end and going, oh, all right.
It had Part 1 in the title, honey.
Yeah, I know, but that film was not finished. It seemed to have been cobbled together, and the storyline didn't. It was almost like they'd just gone, oh, we'll have a bit of this and we'll have a bit of that, and someone will die and someone will not die, and it felt very cobbled together.
Well, let's talk about this film then.
Go on then. You keep teasing. You've been teasing me over the last couple of days of there's things I want to say, Elaine. You never call me Elaine, but there's things I want to say about this film. So come on now, you've got your mic in your hand.
So this is the last of the Mission Impossible films.
So we think.
It better be. It follows on from the previous one, and I think halfway through these films they decided to have an on-running arc all the way through rather than just being sort of Mission of the Week or Mission of the Year.
Yeah. So it's sort of fitting them into each other, yeah.
I watched the first hour of this film, and all that was going through my head is, this film is awful.
Oh.
I think this is a really badly put together film. There's too many characters. There's too many guest stars. There's guest stars that don't add anything to it. There's one point where Tom Cruise is sat with a secondary character and says, oh, I know that you're XXXXX related to a previous part of the film. Never hinted at before, never hinted at after. Absolutely nothing to do with anything. So it's just that someone said, oh, it'd be cool if he made him that. It's like 8-year-olds playing games and deciding things and then just instantly forgetting about them. There's a fight early on in this film that's played absolutely for laughs, because I'm not going to go into why that's played for laughs. Just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There's so many points in this where there's plot points where, oh, for this mission to work, someone needs to be in the exact same spot at the exact same time as Ethan as he's doing this task.
Hasn't that always been the case, though?
Right, let me finish. And that's why it's an impossible mission. At a number of different points in this film, they just absolutely back out of this and just don't show that happening. And then Ethan wakes up on the floor, and then we move on with the rest of the film. Then we get to the actual endings of there's a big sequence halfway through, there's a big sequence at the end, and I sat with my jaw on the floor for both of them, and they absolutely rescue the film, but they don't really have a lot of relevance. I've got a couple of massive issues with the very end sequence of this, because although it is one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen on screen, a lot of stuff just happens, and for no real reason, and that's why I need to talk about this in like a spoiler section, because this goes through. The entire thing of this film is you spent so long wondering if you could that you never thought about if you should, and that is this film through and through. None of the plot works. We started talking about the AI in the first episode of this film. It's coming through now. It's turning countries green on a map. It's And it's such a generic thing that it's turning things different colours. But we never really see anything about it. There's like a couple of films early on where you see like, oh, it's disrupting the media. Never played into again. This film is really, really bad, but rescued by some of the most amazing action sequences I've ever seen on a film. You enjoyed it, didn't you?
I really liked it. I thought it was great, and I think it pulls off the premise of the thing is Mission Impossible. So I do have a problem with when you're saying, oh, and then so and so's got to be here for him to be rescued, and he's got to be doing this. Yes, that's every single one of these films, maybe apart from the first one, which was much more sort of gothic and dark and had a lot more of almost like a 1930s sort of stint to it. It was very sort of almost black and white. I think the films, as they've got, as we've gone along with them, they've become more bombastic. They've become more of these big set pieces, and that I really enjoy it. I am not going to say that this is a brilliant film, all in the round. I do have issues with it. I think plotting wise, I think it has, like you have, it has the same issues as the previous, the part one, of which this is part two, whether they say it or not in the title. The AI, which was introduced in part one, like you say, it's not a villain to me. We've seen this before with use of technology and things like Terminator, but it's done much better in terms of what's happening with the with things coming to life. This is just a nothingness, and I hate how they call it the entity. It is not a baddie. I much prefer sort of like your baddies, like your Philip Seymour Hoffman. I thought was a brilliant baddie in the earlier Mission Impossible. So I miss that sort of person, and the human counterpart of the entity in this guy Gabriel. I quite like the fact that he, in this, you don't really know anything about him, and he just sort of cackles quite a lot, which actually for me, I mean, he might as well just be someone who's lost their mind. But I'm not sure that's really what the film was saying. I don't think that is what they were going down. But I just imagined that he just didn't know what was going on, and he was just, he'd lost it.
Well, I mean, the hint that him and Ethan have a past.
Yes, but they never go. Yeah, and that's the problem with it. There's just no depth to it
This is
whatsoever.
a 3-hour second part of a 2-part film.
Yeah,
I think the first one was 2.5 hours. It feels like a fetch quest to me, and it feels like just going and picking up guest stars. This didn't work for me, and on a grand scheme of things,
I get that.
Final Destination Bloodlines is twice the film that this is.
Oh, Mark. Brilliant stunts. Plot wise, it's gone off one. But I really like the people. I really like, particularly. I'm never going to get a name right, but I think it's Pom
Clementif.
I can't ever get a name. Sorry.
I've probably not got that right either, but
yeah, I think she's a really good addition to the team. I think there's some other people who are really good additions. I do think some of our long-serving characters don't get as much screen time as they deserve. So that there are all these things that I know that there are problems.
Don't make me cut you. Don't make me make you edit more spoilers out of this.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. I just went with it. I think for 3 hours, which I was not looking forward to, I just went with it, and I enjoyed it. And I'm glad I enjoyed it. I'm sorry that you
enjoyed it.
I'm sorry that you didn't enjoy it as much, because I think if you're not with it, and you're not going along with the film and kind of like shrugging your shoulders. I've been spending an hour going, this is the worst film I've ever seen ever. It's hard work when you've got to sit there for another 2 hours.
I mean, and this, I genuinely considered, like, do I stay in this? And I don't walk out of films.
No, you don't.
Having said that, I think I probably, give it 3.5 stars.
You give it 3.5? I mean, Empire gave it 4.
Purely for the audaciousness of the stunts.
Yeah, and I mean, we haven't talked about Tom, but he's still going, and I liked all the nods to the older Mission Impossible. I love this series. I think it gets away with a lot for me because I love the character, I love the series, and I can forgive it quite a bit. Right then, 3.5 star takedown from Mark, and you know what? I would probably give it 3.5 as well, but coming out completely the other end.
That's
weird,
impressive,
isn't it? Yeah. So 3.5 stars for Mission Impossible.
Yes, it is.
Oh, actually, before we finish, just to wind back to our London Underground, that was the bit that I was really, really happy to see that Mission Impossible, this is not a spoiler, but Mission Impossible also includes nods to the Underground and includes a scene where I was directly underneath a big monument in London. It's going to be so obvious. I don't know why I'm even trying to not spoil it, but a big monument in London where Tom and the team were. I was 25 feet below that, learning about the Underground. And I'm just, when I would think I was excited because I was like, I know that's not a real tube station. I know what this is, and I know what's right underneath there. And there's Charing Cross. So yeah, I think an extra half a star for including the tube. Thank you. I've finished now, Mark. Should we do 28 years later?
Should we do a film that doesn't include the tube?
No, it doesn't include the tube because it's up north. So 28 years later...
Doesn't even include the metro.
Danny Boyle's latest, the sequel to 28 Days Later. We have to say this right at the beginning. This is my big fact of the week. Over 80% of the film was shot on location up at our neck of the woods. I was swimming in the sea looking out at the Holy Island, which is featured in this film. It's a major setting in this film. And I think I turned to you at one point going, do you think I could swim over there? Which you quite rightly went, no, Elaine, I don't think you could. And I've also threatened to go up there because there's the causeway to get you across, and you keep being panicked that I'll get stuck on it because people get stuck on it all the time with the old tides.
No, I don't get panicked. I just know you would.
Just know I would.
Like, it's just inevitable that if you went there, that's what would happen.
I mean, it's like every other week, isn't it, where you get in our local paper, you get, so-and-so family rescued from high tide trying to get across the Holy Island.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that they're still trying to able to get stories out of this. Like, look at this dickhead who's got halfway
and that
across.
Was like, it would be me. But yeah, it's near. I was up in Scotland the other day, and you can see it on the train. But also there are lots of other areas as well. There's like Kielder Forest, Hexham, lots of places near us, and places that are like really proper local spots to us and our friends. So it was really exciting to have them come up here. And I know that like the major players in this film, Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Ray Fiennes were all spotted in the area, and they did that usual thing of like they went for a curry somewhere and like the people who run the curry house took photos of them, and then again it was in the local paper. Bit like when Harrison Ford came to stay.
I was getting weekly updates.
Were you?
Yes.
Who by?
Who do you
would
think?
Would it be me?
I don't really want to know much about this film before it starts. And, you'll never guess who was up there. No, I don't want to guess, hon.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I was quite annoying with it, wasn't I? But it was so off. And then I was like showing you pictures of them on set, and you weren't.
I don't want to see.
You didn't want to see. Funnily enough, a lot of the stuff that I saw, because people were like taking photos, but also it was being like released to the press, didn't appear in this film. So I wonder if it's going to appear in the sequel, because they did film 2 films back to back. So there's going to be this one 28 years later, and then there's going to be, I think it's 28 years later, the Bone Temple is the sequel, so it's already been filmed.
That's my understanding.
Is that your understanding? Yes. Good. And also good on them. They came up, they went to our local independent cinema, the Tyneside Cinema, and they had a premiere up here, and they had all the local, because they did a call out for people to be the infected. Sadly, neither you or I are skinny enough to be like diminished infected people.
I don't know. I saw a few zombies that I could pass for, to be honest. So? Yeah,
a few hairy zombies.
So the plot of this is that we are an unspecified length of time after the initial events of 28 Days Later. I forget how long it is. It probably says on screen.
Probably does.
And we join our group of survivors as they are living out on Holy Island, an island that, as you mentioned, is separated from the mainland by a causeway, which is only accessible for a couple of times a day at low tide. So can I go through my thoughts?
Yeah.
So I mean, really, really enjoyed the first part of this film, where we meet Aaron Taylor Johnson taking his son, Spike, played by Alfie Williams, out onto the mainland.
Local lad as well.
Yeah. I thought he had the best accent of anyone,
Yeah.
which I then
Because he's
realised.
I think he's from Gateshead.
Yeah, that's probably why. While we're on the subject, how did you find the accents?
You know what? I think for the most part, I thought they were very good.
Yeah.
I think because I'm obviously from round these parts,
Yeah.
my ear is incredibly attuned to it. Now, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson, funny enough, because Jodie Comer has a really good ear for accents as well.
Yeah.
Hers sometimes, it just sometimes I just couldn't. It wasn't that it was dipping out of Jodie. It was just almost like the wrong Jodie. There was one moment with Aaron Taylor Johnson where it was a new scene, and I wonder if they'd just cut to it, or it was a new day, and his just dropped a little bit because he was quite broad, and then suddenly it just wasn't broad, but then it went back to it. I think it's a hard accent.
And there was one scene where he said something like "how air," but he absolutely did not hit it like a Geordie would say "how air."
It's the cadence of it.
"How air."
But I thought it was very, very good. And on this point, I was listening to one of the American podcasts, and they were saying how difficult they were finding it to understand the Northern Irish accents. And I was driving, and I shouted a lot in the car, but in a very sort of like, I mean, how many times have I watched like an American film and got like where the state wrong or whatever? I've said, it's California or whatever. But so I did think it was hilarious when they were saying, I just really, really did need subtitles for like the Northern Irish accents. So yeah, but
I suppose when you think of Cillian Murphy, probably, yeah.
But and I really, one of the things I really loved is because it's obviously was filmed up here. There were lots of native Northerners in the back. You could hear the accents. I know a lot of them because I recognise them from the from being around these parts. And I really liked. At one point, they sing a song that is very much from the culture of this. So there's all of that I really, really enjoyed, and I loved hearing, and I loved having a film that was based in my culture.
Yeah,
and that I really loved that, and it gave me a lot of it was quite meaningful actually.
And as part of this film, we see a lot of Northeast monuments. We see things.
Yeah, things from a bit like when you're in London. If they were filming in London, you would see Trafalgar Square, you would see Marble Arch, you would see all these, or the London Eye. Yeah. They did do the equivalent of that from up here.
I'm not sure of the exact geography of where people go. I feel they're taking the Costner Trail at certain points.
You know what? I totally got that at one point. I was like, and also there was a big monument. And I thought, that just wouldn't be there, or there would be other things around, like where there's a road there, and and I know it's been 28 years, but it still wouldn't have got rid of all of those houses. Those houses would have actually still been there. So I think sometimes you can know too much, can't you?
Yeah. First part of this film with Aaron Taylor Johnson playing the sort of lead in this, I really enjoyed. I love the world building. I love to see how the society developed for 28 years. And I think this is probably the same thing that I enjoy about The Walking Dead, in that when they come across a like group of survivors, and you see what they've done just to get through it, and how they deal with the undead and things like that. The second half of this film takes a pretty different swing, and for me, I don't think it entirely worked. But it wasn't like Mission Impossible levels of disappointing. But it just seemed they are on a mission to do something, to find something, and it just seemed a little bit too easy at points. And the stakes that had been set up in the first part of the film were absolutely not played out for much of the second part, I thought.
Yeah. It's not the film that it was set up in the trailer to be. I think some people, if they watch all the I saw all the trailers, and I was terrified going into this. I really thought this was going to be a very different film to what it ended up being. It ended up being a much more contemplative film, a much more reflective film. There are moments of real, I wonder, without going into any spoilers, I think the only thing I can say is I wonder if Danny Boyle's reached a point in his life where he's thinking about death, because there are contemplations on death and what is a good death and how do we die and how do we live and what happens. And actually, I was thinking about, there's assisted dying bill going through the House of Commons at the moment, and it's just passed. It's going up to the House of Lords, and I wondered if he was thinking about that as well, because there's a lot of sort of what is death and what is life, and I really appreciate that as a thought process and getting to grips with it. However, as you say, I came out of this film not really knowing where to place it. It felt tonally that it just wasn't. But then once I don't know why I'm saying this, but I was upstairs in the bathroom hiding out for 5 minutes just to get a bit of peace and quiet while you were looking after our son.
It's absolutely fine for me to cover you for the 2.5 hours you were out watching the cinema though, by the way. That's fine. Yeah.
But I was just having a moment where I just thought, right, I just need to get myself together before I go back and like sort out tea and do all this stuff, all of that sort of thing. And now I was playing in my head, how am I going to explain this on the podcast? And I was thinking back to all the Danny Boyle films that we were actually talking about this morning, because we went on a walk this morning and you were saying that you were like filling in a quiz about what films Danny Boyle's done. And all of those films have tonal change. Even when you think of Trance, when you think of Trainspotting, he's quick and sharp and his edits are interesting. And even 28 Days Later, which you watched the other day and I sort of muscled in on and watched a little bit of, it's funny camera angles, and he loves one of them, what they call Dutch angles, where you go, it all goes a bit sideways. And he does do these switches. I mean, like A Life Less Ordinary, which is one of my favourite films of all time, is a strange film with all sorts of stuff going on in it. So I don't dislike this film in any way, shape or form, and I think the more I think about it, the more it sits with me, the more I go, well, I quite like he's got something to say. I quite like it's not just being this gore fest that I was expecting from the trailer, that it did have these other moments. For me personally, I would have liked to have stayed with that first half more. I think that's what you're saying. Yeah. Because I wanted to know more about this community that had been built. We get snapshots of it. It's a bit like going into Beamish, which is like this historic museum, isn't it? This outdoor museum up near us where you can go into like a 1950s shop, and you can go into, a sweet shop from the 1930s, and you can go down the mines, and someone's going to carry a canary in front of you, so you can play at history, and it kind of felt a bit like that. And I would have liked to have understood a little bit more about the male-female roles, about why they're, how does religion come into it, what are they doing in terms of medicine and education, and how do they choose what is happening, how have they created this society, and where has it come from? I wanted to know more about some of the characters that we were introduced to, because they all seem to me to be really fascinating, and I'd love to know the backstory. How did they get there? How have they survived for this long? I wanted more of that rather than what we got in the second half.
There is one shot, and it's not a spoiler, so I'm not gonna but there is a shot of a tapestry that they have made, which for anyone who's from around here is the same style as the old mining communities banners that they used to make. And I was just like, that is such a beautiful thing. And I'm not sure if I certainly wouldn't have known that if I'd never moved up here. I don't know if it's other mining communities would have the similar thing. I imagine they probably did, but it's such a beautiful thing that really, really took me. And saw that at the same time that they were singing a really big local song from around here that I wouldn't have known if I wasn't from up here. It felt like a love letter to my adopted home city and home area, and I will always have a lot of warmth to this film for that very reason. The ending really, really, I have a lot of problems with, and that's why I want to talk about we're going to be on the same page for this one, funnily enough, not with Mission Impossible, but definitely for the end of 28 years later, I think we both have an issue with the ending. I don't think it's a drop a star off ending because it is a postscript, and I feel I would settled in the film by that point. But there is Yeah.
And there's been a lot of discourse about it. So we're going to come
Okay,
back.
so I haven't heard any of the discourse
have
either.
you not? Right,
so,
okay.
yes.
So we're going to say thank you, and we're going to leave you here. If you don't want to go into spoilers, so if you haven't seen either of these films, just depart at this point in time, jump off the train, choo choo.
So yeah, I think at this point, if you have not seen these two films, it's probably best to leave us here. Thank you for listening. We'll be back pretty soon because I have been making Elaine watch Saved by the Bell episode for the past couple of weeks.
Oh, and can we say before we go into spoilers, thank you to everyone who's left comments on our Spotify episodes. We discovered them the other day and we were so excited to read them. We didn't even realise you could leave comments on episodes on Spotify.
Yeah, I was listening to the Cinemile and I think they had the same situation. I think they must have Spotify must have started sending out emails.
Right.
When someone leaves a comment on your thing, because there's some from like months ago which we'd never known about, and then we got a message from, funnily enough, the Cinemile to say on our Chronicles of Narnia episodes. So if you are looking for a podcast where two people discuss the BBC TV show The Chronicles of Narnia, we got a podcast for you. Equally, I've made Elaine watch Saved by the Bell. Whatever she says about it, she has laughed at least 2 or 3 times per episode.
Every time I've laughed at an episode, I've seen Mark writing it down. So yeah, we'll be coming back with a Saved by the Bell episode soon.
If not, if you're not going to stay with us, we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Okay, so quick spoiler alert for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. You want to talk about the ending?
I want to talk about the ending.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk about the ending in both of these films, yeah.
I want to talk about the ending and specifically the plane sequence.
Okay.
So you've got Tom Cruise hanging onto a plane.
As per.
Yeah, as per. I mean, how many times can that happen to one guy?
Exactly.
I think this is really, really bad filmmaking in that he's having a fight with Gabriel. They are no longer piloting the plane. They're up and about and having punch-ups on the wings and things like that.
I think Gabriel is still piloting the plane, isn't he?
Well, okay. Well, they're still fighting. And
yeah.
Gabriel turns around to him and says, "I'm the only one with a parachute."
Yeah.
Yeah?
But he isn't.
Yes, I know.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Why do you set that up and then 2 seconds later,
that is weird.
Tom Cruise is like,
yeah.
"Oh, here's
and then
one."
Also, doesn't Tom Cruise's parachute blow up?
Yeah.
And then when he's on the ground, it's fine.
So, yes, this is exactly my problem.
Yeah. I see.
I've stewed on this for a month now.
Okay.
So I think what people have said is, oh, well, it's the backup parachute.
Yeah.
But why show the parachute
Why
burning?
show it burning?
The answer is...
They think he was going to die.
No, the answer is because Tom Cruise set a world record for the most number of burning parachute jumps.
Oh, did he?
And this is exactly what I'm saying when I say it's a should have rather than
okay.
could have rather than should have.
Now I understand. I didn't really think about it too much.
It's just bad. No, I've thought about nothing else since.
Uh-oh.
And it's that kind of thing where it's just really... They have this big thing, and he's told a number of different times during the film, oh, when you come up for air, you're gonna get the bends. You need to blow. You need to exhale, and otherwise you're gonna get the bends. And you do this, and then we see him go up. We see him pass out.
Uh-huh.
There is a point where I think it's Haley Atwell's character has to be in the exact same spot where he's coming up.
She's gonna find it with the dogs.
There is,
and the old lady.
But we don't see any of that. So it's just like, oh, here he is. Yeah,
I thought they were going to do a switcheroo because when they're inside the tent, the hyperbaric doodah, when they're inside that and she's like trying to say, oh, I think you could be the one that could control the entity. I wondered whether at some point in time there was going to be a plot line where she turned out to like be on the side of the entity or something, or it reminded me of like... this is such a weird comparison, but in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, where Ilsa, who is on the side of the Nazis, but she says she's not really, and she doesn't like the fact that they burn books, where she's I know, these are the major things that I remember about Ilsa and that, but she's all about the history and wanting to find the Grail. It kind of, I thought they might have been going down that where she has like good intentions or something, but she's turned by the power of something. But
if
that
the thing
didn't
she hates
happen.
around the Nazis is that they ban books, I think she's got some bigger problems.
Major thing in that. Anyway, I didn't mean to go down that sort of rabbit hole, but it made me think about that of a character that is turned. And yeah, I wondered, because I thought, this is to go back to what I was thinking, I thought we think they're in this hyperbaric chamber on the ice, but maybe he's going to unzip it and they're going to be like in Gabriel's lair or something like that. I think the problem with the last couple of Mission Impossibles, as you have rightly said, is that plot-wise, you just don't know where they're going to go, because I think they're hedging their bets. And I do wonder whether they've gone, oh, we could do that. You know who I feel really bad for is Rebecca Rebecca Ferguson, who isn't mentioned at all in the film, and she's only just died.
Yeah.
Like, this is meant to be taking place like straight after part one.
Yeah.
So he's meant to be grieving this woman.
Whoa, we've got a Ving Rhames to kill off.
Well, yeah,
an unnamed disease in Act 1.
I know. I felt sorry for the nurse in that as well, because that poor nurse gets done in, and then no one really says anything about her. And he's always going on about, for those we never meet. Well, you met that nurse and she's not had a good time, has she? So yeah, there were all sorts of plotting things. You know what? That final aeroplane sequence did nothing for me.
Really?
Yeah,
that's spectacular.
Because I feel like I've seen it all before. However, I know. It just kind of always hanging off the plane, and he's going to chuck him out.
Hanging off a plane.
Well, I would have preferred it if he actually died at the end. I think I would have, some sort of stakes. But anyway, the submarine was phenomenal. That turning and it really made me like, inside and drowning and the bends, and yeah. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal.
I'm not sure by the physics of all of it. Like, it seemed like it moved and then things fell in a different direction.
But the whole thing about like going into we're going to go in the torpedo tunnel. Oh, there's a torpedo in there. Oh, we're going to go in there. Oh, I mean, how is he going to get out of it? Oh, he's got to take all of his equipment off and he's got to shove it through. I mean, for someone who's got claustrophobia, hello, here I am. Just every moment of that had me going like really trying to get my breath in a very open cinema.
I tried blowing out at the same time he was coming up to thing. Yeah. I think everyone did that. Yeah.
But yeah, still 3.5 stars.
Sat there going,
I mean, lovely. How attractive. Oh. So you want it to be the end? You're ready for it to... I would quite like it to reset and go back to sort of the early versions of it. I know lots of people have lots of things to say about Cruise. I mean, he's that sort of character where people have an opinion. I think he's just, as a person, I find him absolutely fascinating. And I think he's just... Like, I can understand why people follow him. Like, have you ever seen someone who's that... Like, he was being interviewed by Edith Bowman the other day at the BFI, and I was just mesmerised by him, by his eyes and his body language. And I feel like if I got in a room with him, he'd like... What's that neurolinguistic program? I think he'd neurolinguistic program me into, following him anywhere, because I just feel he's got that presence around. And I hate that stuff. I do. I'm always on the lookout for all this stuff. But I feel I could be taken in by it. I mean, you don't have to react to that in any way, shape, or form. I just feel he's a movie star. He's just, there's something about him. If you sign us up
for Scientology, I'm
probably
going to have something to say about that.
I'm not talking about. I don't want to go down the Scientology route, because people have done it before, and there's been a lot said about it. But I just think him as a character, he's just fascinating. And when I'm watching him on screen, when he's doing his little runs, he's run, and he's like 60 odd now. I just find him such a compelling screen presence. I want to watch him. I want to see what he's doing. Although in that BFI thing, he was saying to Edith Bowman, he wants to do musicals. He wants to do every genre. He's never going to give it. He just kept going, I'm never giving up. And I believe him. Right. Do you have anything else to say about Mission Impossible?
I'm a little bit more worried
Spoiler.
about you, but no.
Don't worry, I'm not signing up for anything.
So my favourite bit about 28 Years Later was when they met John Locke.
You met John Locke? Oh, you mean Ray Fiennes?
Yes.
Oh, is that
Ray
what you...
Fiennes playing John Locke.
I don't think he's
in
playing
Locke.
John. He's a GP. I don't know what you're talking about. He's covering himself in iodine, which I don't think is iodine. I think it's blood. Just to say, that was my little 2 pence worth there. But yeah, it's a real contemplation on death, isn't it? Like,
Yes, absolutely.
Is he mad? Is he actually? I mean, he's spouting out a load of Latin. Is he really thinking about what is death and what is life, and has his role as a GP, as a medical person, brought him to that conclusion? Why is he lining up corpses and making things out of their bone? It's like a bit of modern art, isn't it? He's done this, and I think that's where it lost me a little bit, because I was like, we're getting a little bit too. We're going away from people farming pigs on Holy Island to Ray Fiennes making his Temple of Bones. However, that bit I could live with. The bit I really struggled tonally was that ending, that very, very last moment where because I was waiting all the way through. There's this young lad at the beginning, isn't it, called Jimmy, and we hear his name over and over again, so you know it's going to come back. The father is the priest. The child says, "Why have you forsaken me?" In terms of, like, it's what's that song, isn't it? It's what's that band that, where they go, "Why have you forsaken me?" That one. Do you not know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's like a metal band when we were in the 90s, and they anyway, there's a line in, everyone's going to be shouting at me. Oh, go and shut up, Elaine.
Why have you forsaken
Is it? Oh,
me?
it's System of a Down.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. That's
I
why
was
when he
never-
whispers at the beginning, he goes, "Wake up," and he whispers, "Wake up," like that. Anyway, there's big. It really reminded me of that, in this sort of like, "God, why have you forsaken me?" Anyway, so he's got this crucifix, and he's ran off, and we never see him again. So you think maybe he's going to pop up on Holy Island. He's going to be like Aaron Taylor Johnson or whatever, all of this. Anyway, he's not. But he then comes back, and you see images, don't you, all the way through the film of, like, there's the guy that's upside down. He's got Jimmy written into his chest. The upside down guy that they find in the cottage.
Did he have Jimmy written in his chest?
He had Jimmy.
I missed that.
Scratched
I
into
saw
his chest.
I didn't see the right.
IMMY.
Okay,
So it's
right. Okay.
And so he's clearly, and that's when Aaron Taylor Johnson says, "Oh, he's been left here," and I thought, oh well, there's, and he says essentially there's weirdos out.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this is where this Jimmy is, and then also on the side of one of the houses, there's almost like a religious reference, and Jimmy's written next to it. So I'm waiting for Jimmy to turn up, but then
Maggot from Goldie Looking Chain turns up.
Yeah. So, and like with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I was thinking Gummy Bears, but yeah, okay.
And also with the Teletubbies, sort of like a metal version of the Teletubbies theme tune to relate it back. And I'm thinking, are these the children that were watching the Teletubbies, but then they all were killed at the beginning, so that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, why have they all got really bad wigs on? Why have they all got, is this meant to say, well, they're all inbred and they've all got like this bright sort of blonde / white hair? And then why has this guy got loads of jewelry on? I've now looked this up. Do you know that this is a Jimmy Savile reference?
No.
Neither did I. I'm so
Fuck
glad.
off.
Yeah, I didn't get this at all, but Danny Boyle has confirmed this. So he's dressed in his shell suit. He's covered in the rings and the thingy, and they're all wearing wigs, and it's all like a Jimmy, and they're calling him Sir Jimmy, this main guy. I didn't pick up on that, and it's a Jimmy Savile reference, and this is being confirmed now. A lot of the right wing press has gone, ban this sick Jimmy Savile reference, and that's how I started. I'd seen this sort of random thing come up on Google with like one of the awful rags saying "oh, bam bam bam," and I was like, oh, they've got this totally wrong. And then I went in and did a bit of research into it, and apparently yes, it is. And people are doing these like long YouTube videos, like working out the political, social, whatever, and deep analysis into why you would put Jimmy Savile into this film. Is it corruption of the BBC? Is it making someone famous and actually they were wrong, and all of that sort of stuff. But apparently Danny Boyle said he can't say anything more about it other than the second film will be a contemplation of evil. And obviously, there's a personification of evil, isn't it, in Jimmy Savile? I don't understand why they're martial arts experts, suddenly these kids that
Yes.
and I don't get the Jimmy Savile-ness of it, because it's a different. I mean, I know I've been saying this all the way through, haven't we, in terms of the tonal, but this is such a tonal shift. Such a tonal shift. It's so intriguing to me. I just what is going to happen in this second film? It makes me want to watch the next film, but it also makes me go, oh, I don't know about this.
It makes me want to watch the second film in the same way that it makes me want to, watch a lot of bad things.
You want to see it to see what's happening.
I might go see The Room at some point.
I'm so glad that you didn't get that, because I was like, am I the only person who just hasn't picked? Because I did think, he's wearing a lot of jewelry and a lot of rings, and he's obviously got the crucifix upside down. Kind of gives the game away a little bit in terms of what he's going to be like. And it's Jack O'Connell,
yes,
who's playing, which again I didn't get until he came up as third build in the credits.
I mean, yeah, his agent's done some work, hasn't he? Yeah,
because he was in Sinners recently.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Sorry, are you saying thank you facetiously there?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So he's doing good with baddies, and now I'm scared for the poor lad from Gateshead, because I thought that ending was lovely, that he had decided to stay on the mainland, that it was a real coming of age. It was beautiful coming of age drama, really, when you think about it. He's someone who's lost his mum. He's, having words with his dad. His dad's, he feels let down by his dad, but he also feels that his dad's making him out to be something that he isn't. There's so much nuance in a father-son relationship in that first half in particular, and the way that Aaron Taylor-Johnson plays it, of good lad, well done, like he's a hero, he's there's so much there to play with, isn't there, dramatically? And then that goes away because then we don't see him, which I thought was a bit of a shame, and then Jodie Comer turns up. So it's beautiful coming of age drama for this young Spike, and then for him to stay on the mainland, but then apparently a Jimmy Savile gang arrive. You can't make it up, can you?
No.
Anything else to say on 28 years later?
I mean, there's a mental picture that I've got in my head, and it's of Samson, and
I mean, should I'm hesitating to say this because I feel it will have been said, but when I was in the pictures this afternoon, the first thing everyone muttered when then the credits went up was, he's a big lad, isn't he? And all I heard around me in proper big old northeast accents was, oh, big lad, and I have to say that audience absolutely loved the comedy in this. They really, I think they loved hearing funny things said in a Geordie accent.
Funny things in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yes.
There's a girl who gets like that when she eats scallops.
Yes.
Perfect timing.
There are so much laughter of that, and I think it's because you're hearing it coming from someone whose voice sounds like yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the cadence and the tone, and there's a lot to be said. I know we've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but there's a huge amount to be said for seeing your world represented on screen, and we just don't get it very often. It's Biker Grove or nothing, isn't it?
I mean, at least you had Biker Grove.
Yeah, true.
What have we had in Hull?
Hull.
Only Fools and Horses went there once.
Well, there's still time.
There's still time. There's still time.
Maybe you'll go there next.
Well, there is that whole show now, which I've never actually watched. The comedy that's I don't know who's in it.
Okay,
yes.
Great. It's really made an impact
Yeah.
on you there. But Danny Boyle might go there next.
He might. He might recreate To Hull and Back episode, or maybe Clockwise. That was filmed in
you
Hull.
talked about that once on the podcast, I'm sure.
Did I?
I'm sure. Probably on episode 2 or something like that. You spoke about it. Right, let's finish up. Thanks very much if you stayed with us to hear us banging on about the spoilers and the end of both of these films.
And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Probably for Saved by the Bell.
See you later.
Bye.